What if the book of Genesis is actually an alien story about human creation? Something you were never taught in church. Now let's talk about the Atrahasis. So the Atrahasis was an epic. It's part of the Sumerian text written on tablets. This is one of the oldest um, creation stories, like the oldest creation story, and also the oldest story to talk about the flood. Now, what I want to get into today is to talk about the distinct similarities between the Atrahasis and the book of Genesis. And yeah, let's get into it. All right. So now when we do a comparison of the Atrahasis and the book of Genesis, let's start with when these things were created. So you got the Atrahasis, which was created 1700 BCE, and you got the book of Genesis, which wasn't created until 1000 to 600 BCE. Now, if you look at the difference, that is at least a 700-year difference in time frame. So the Atrahasis is much older than the story of Genesis. Now, which one came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't know. All right. Now, let's talk about the similarities. Made man from clay and blood. Book of Genesis talks about formed from dust and dirt. You see the similarities there? Let's get into the next one. Humans became too noisy. This was the reason for the flood in the Atrahasis. In the book of Genesis, the reason from the flood was humans became too wicked. They were corrupt, right? Um, Now you get into the divine structure, right, of the gods. Now, in the Atrahasis, they had these extraterrestrial beings, not from Earth originally, but they were called gods, or they referred to themselves as gods. Now, this talks about two specific brothers who were leaders of the Anu. They were Anu leaders, which were the gods that they were referring to. Enlil was referred to as the strict god, versus Enki had compassion. Now, we'll get a little bit more into these two, but you'll see how their two stories are very similar throughout the Bible and to the book of Genesis. Now, in the book of Genesis, you have Yahweh, right? Yahweh is God. Yahweh acts as both judge and savior. Okay, so you got one monotheistic God in the Bible in the book of Genesis. So now this is where the comparison of Noah and Atrahasis come into the picture. So Atrahasis predates Noah, right? However, Atrahasis is the Noah in the epic of Atrahasis. So Atrahasis was warned by Enki to build the ark. He was told by Enki that there was going to be a great flood. Noah from the book of Genesis was warned by God that there was going to be a great flood. All right, now we get into the details of how to build the ark. Enki gave details to Atrahasis on instructions on how to build the ark. God gave detailed instructions to Noah on how to build the ark. Last but not least, sacrifices offered to the gods, right? Sacrifices were offered. The gods regret the flood, okay? Because in the story, there was a deliberation after the flood, and they spoke about, maybe we shouldn't do that again, right? So there's very much so a similarity here. Noah offers sacrifice, if you remember in the book of Genesis. God promises never to flood earth again. You see the similarities in that? All right, guys. So to wrap this up, I wanted to put the Atrahasis and the book of Genesis side by side so you guys could see the similarities for yourself. You don't have to believe me. There's many books out there in regards to the Atrahasis. Like I mentioned, this is a Sumerian text that has been translated into readable English. So whatever language you speak, you can go out and get this information. But I wanted you guys to understand that the story that you've been told is not an original story. This story has actually been taken from older, earlier text and then spun and weaponized at our demise, essentially. So if you like this video, please share, comment, like it, and I'll do a deeper dive into the next video that talks about the two stories.